fans are fired up. The Boston Bruins have been in action. All of these teams are getting ready for another great year, and we're so excited to break it all down here tonight. I am your host, Hannah Yates, joined by my partner, who I have the gift of sitting alongside all season long, and former NHLer, color analyst for Hurricanes Live pre and post, covering the Carolina Hurricanes, Shane Willis. I can't believe hockey is back, friend. How's it going over there?
It is great, and you are never allowed to give back that gift for a return at any moment during the season. No matter if I come off the rails or not, it's an exciting night. Hockey is back. I wanted to do my best Ric Flair impersonation, but I'll leave it alone for a little while as you and I break down a ton of action tonight in the National Hockey League, and, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes kicking it off at home against the New Jersey Devils.
Well, there's still plenty of time for that throughout the show. We'll have a lot of fun here. And the Carolina Hurricanes are in action here tonight, taking on the New Jersey Devils. We'll be airing those games on FanDuel Sports Network all season long. And there are 4 ways to watch your local team with FanDuel Sports Network. You can find us on your local cable or satellite channel lineup. You can log into your television provider to stream on the FanDuel Sports Network app. You can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network online, or you can watch us on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. There are 14 games underway here tonight. We're going to be breaking down so many of these teams, and some of those will be airing on FanDuel Sports Network. Of course, the Detroit Red Wings are taking on the Montreal Canadiens, the Minnesota Wild, and the St. Louis Blues in a big central matchup, and the Blue Jackets taking on the Nashville Predators. All of these puck drop times are in the Eastern time zone. Shane, let's get into some of the biggest topics that are taking place across hockey right now. We have to start with the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. There's been so much noise around this team, and rightfully so. We'll get into some of the hits that even they've taken in the past couple of weeks, but they have the chance to repeat this season. This has not been done in the National Hockey League since back in, 1980, 45 years ago. I was not born at that time. Maybe you can tell us more about it, but why is this so difficult for them to do?
Oh, now we're taking shots at my age, but it's fine. I did see it happen. I was very young at that time, but I did see it happen, Hannah. It's an exciting time around the National Hockey League, and of course, for the Florida Panthers. And I think when they went back-to-back last year, the big question going into the summer, would the band be back together? And Bill Zito goes out immediately before July 1st and answers that question, says, yes, they will. Aaron Ekblad is back. Sam Bennett is back. Brad Marchand is back. Everyone is back with the Florida Panthers to try and do something, as you talked about, that hasn't been done in a very, very long time, is to three-peat and once again take the Stanley Cup back to South Florida and continue to party. I'm not sure if many teams can handle a 3-year party, but the Florida Panthers may be up to the task, and you know they're going to have a seat at the table. They're going to be in the playoff. Paul Maurice, completely such a dynamic change in the way he coached from when he first started the National Hockey League. He talks about it at length. The things that he does to allow his players to be creative, to get the rest they need, but to go out on the ice and work together as a team. They talked about it last year, how close this team has gotten as a family on and off the ice, and that's a big part of why they were the champs again last year.
Let's take a minute to dive into some of those injuries that you mentioned, because the loss of a captain in itself, the leadership not only on the ice and what Barkov was able to do last season, but also in the locker room. You as a player know it firsthand. So obviously he could be out, expected for all of this season, which is really, really unfortunate for the Florida Panthers. Obviously, with that ACL, MCL injury that he suffered in practice, had to undergo surgery at the end of September, right before the season opens. Then Matthew Tkachuk, who's still been battling that groin injury since suffering that back in the Four Nations Face-Off tournament. He was battling through different things, even from the first half of the season, tried to come back, play in the postseason, and now he's missing the start here. When you think about the impact of those two players, what does it do to the team to open the season in those losses?
Well, for me, even more importantly, the signing of Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett coming back, when you look at the leadership and the loss of Barkov inside that locker room. The other big piece to me, wondering where is going to be the step-up player in the center ice position, because we talk about Alex Barkov every single year in the Selke Trophy nominations. Who steps up in that position to control the top offenses of other teams? Tampa Bay, right across the state, is sitting there going, we now have a better chance to knock these guys off because our offensive players don't have to face Barkov. Tkachuk, that one is still a mystery. He's skating, he's not skating. They don't know when this guy is going to be 100%. they're going to play it very, very slow, I think, because of the depth they do have, because of a guy like Bobrovsky between the pipes who can backstop them to wins, to get them inside the playoffs. And then if everyone all of a sudden comes back healthy, the entire league goes, watch out, they've done it again, and they are ready to go to make it a three-peat. But that injury to Barkov, the mystery around Tkachuk of when he's going to be able to go, is definitely something that teams have to take advantage of when they face the Florida Panthers early in this season.
I think you're so spot on with that. I almost had to go back through the roster of this team, which is so stacked. Even a Sam Reinhart, who was a finalist for that Selke Trophy, as you mentioned, they have so much depth. And you saw that on full display with their win over the Chicago Blackhawks. Despite these injuries and those losses, not knowing when those players will return, this Florida Panthers team is still expected to be the front runner to win the Stanley Cup and three-peat this year. You take a look at the odds coming out of Vegas here with these FanDuel Sports odds heading into the season. When you take a look at a list of those who are projected to potentially win the Stanley Cup, who stands out most to you here, Shane?
Florida, the obvious choice for a lot of people to three-peat. This is coming out before these injuries happen, so I think that was the easy choice. But you look at Edmonton, you wonder if Connor McDavid can push them over the edge. The Dallas Stars, the Carolina Hurricanes, and Colorado Avalanche, all very, very deep in their own right, and what they can do inside their divisions and then make a run at a Stanley Cup. We know around the National Hockey League, the parity between every single team, no one is a given. And every team needs to get to the playoffs first, but then remain healthy to be able to make that very, very long run to hoist the Stanley Cup. Florida wasn't completely healthy when they won it last year and go back-to-back, but these players fight through every single thing they can to get to that finish line. But on that graphic, all five of those teams, a very, very good shot to make it to the finals and become the champion.
The Edmonton Oilers are obviously right there in it, as they should be, given the last two seasons back to back. They have suffered a lot of pain. I thought the city of Edmonton might burn down after the end of last season and how that went because of the expectations that have been set there. And then comes out the Connor McDavid news. In this past week, there have been multiple contracts that have kind of caught me by surprise, but this one caught me by surprise for a different reason, signing a short-term contract to stay there. What does it tell you about Connor McDavid's mindset to sign a team-friendly contract and what that leads into for a season for the Edmonton Oilers?
As we travel around the National Hockey League each year, Hannah, we know the pressure that is around any team that's in Canada, especially Edmonton, Toronto, these teams, Montreal, that want a Stanley Cup so badly for their city. Connor McDavid has that desire. He wants to bring a Stanley Cup to Edmonton. But what I respect about the decision to take this contract, one, he allows the team flexibility to go out there and add pieces that they will need to hoist the Stanley Cup. He cannot take too much money this early and make the team short, not being able to add those pieces. So I respect what Connor McDavid did. Now, the other thing to me that this contract did, a short-term contract, which now he has 3 years, one more year in his original deal, and then the 2-year extension. This mounts the pressure on the Edmonton Oilers to win, because this tells me when this contract is over, if there's no Stanley Cup, Connor McDavid leaves Edmonton. And I think that's the writing on the wall. If the Stanley Cup is not in their possession at one point in these 3 years, I expect Connor McDavid to leave the Edmonton Oilers and get a high pay grade to go somewhere else in the National Hockey League.
Just for a quick piggyback off of that, what would it take for Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers to move past, to win the Stanley Cup? What is the difference for them this season that could push them through potentially?
It's not the scoring in my mind. You have two of the best players in the National Hockey League in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. You have scoring depth up front. I think you need to add a piece, one, defensively, to help your team shut down other teams' offenses and top lines. And then to me, the biggest glaring thing the Edmonton Oilers need is a goaltender. Skinner has been there the past 2 years and hasn't been able to get it done. They bring in Connor Ingram on a trade from Utah late before training camp. I really think that this player is going to get the opportunity to carry the load for this team. He is very young. He's driven. He wants to be the number one. That's why he got out of Utah. So I think watch out for Connor Ingram. Can he be the guy? I'm not sure. But to me, it's between the pipes for the Oilers. The reason they've kind of come up short in these last 2 years against the Florida Panthers.
That's a great point by you. And speaking of these contracts, the signings, the deals heading into the season, obviously one of the biggest headlines was Mitch Marner. This is someone who departs from Toronto, joins the Vegas Golden Knights, which we're going to break down throughout this show because the Pacific is it's going to be strong this season, that division in itself. But dialing in on Mitch Marner, when you think about that fit and the reason behind it, what comes to mind?
The first thing that jumps out to me is the release of pressure from the Toronto media and the Toronto fan base. Mitch Marner was the whipping boy of the Toronto Maple Leafs for the past few years, falling short and continuing to produce in that situation. I think going to Vegas, and after he signed, all the videos that come out of watching Mitch Marner walk into the offices, walking into the locker room, the smile and ease that he had there, I think helps his game immensely. Add the fact that he's going to play with Jack Eichel, a tremendous offensive player in his own right, that can elevate his game to another level when it comes to the points area. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights are a very deep team, and Mitch Marner continues to work on his craft, continues to work on his game. But I think just that added relief of the pressure going away from Toronto takes Mitch Marner to another level and makes the signing by the Vegas Golden Knights even better.
Let's transition to the Carolina Hurricanes now. Another signing pickup in free agency with Nikolai Ehlers coming. He has spent his entire duration of his career with the Winnipeg Jets, and he opts to come to the Carolina Hurricanes. He had many options. He could have gone where he wanted to go, and he chose to come to Carolina. Shane, I had a conversation with him yesterday. I just have to throw this in. He was talking about his 9-pound dog that he brought here. He's like, the atmosphere is great. The climate, it's so much better than the cold weather. He's enjoyed it so far. From the human perspective, from a player perspective, why is he a fit in Carolina?
As a former Canadian myself, anyone in Winnipeg would love to live in North Carolina. I can tell you the truth that he's saying it's much nicer here, without a doubt. And why does he fit? Because of the way he plays the game. One, he can skate. He has the speed that Rod Brind'Amour wants to see from his offense. But the big part of Nikolai Ehlers' game, and you watch him come through the neutral zone, it's all about puck possession. This guy holds on to pucks, he enters into the offensive zone, and then he has the ability to make plays. He's not giving up pucks. He's not turning it over. He has the veteran leadership to have puck management through the neutral zone and in the offensive zone. And when you look at the line of Ehlers, Aho, and Jarvis, tonight's a big step. The first game of the season, you want them to come out of the gates running. But overall, you want to see chemistry build. He's going to be holding on to pucks and making plays. And guys like Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis are going to have smiles on their faces all season long because Nikolai Ehlers chose the Carolina Hurricanes and will help them make that run at the Stanley Cup.
He is going to be so much fun to watch in Carolina. Also, Keandre Miller, a big name coming out of New York, obviously part of the trade from the Rangers, comes to Carolina. And something interesting, I had the chance to sit down with him for Carolina Hurricanes Media Day. And I said, what's the one thing you would like to target in your game this season? And he said, growth. That was the word that he has used. And I think it really encapsulates a lot of his career from what we have seen, whether it be injury, learning curves, different things that he has had to overcome. And this is a big season for him to prove himself. What would you like to see from Keandre Miller in a Carolina Hurricanes uniform?
That comment by Keandre Miller is perfect because that's something I think everybody in this organization wants to see. I think being with the New York Rangers, being with the pairing that he was in, it held him back. He was forced to consistently play the defensive side of the puck. He wasn't allowed to go. Adam Fox was always up the ice. He was that guy that was in the protection mode. I think this system that Rod Brind'Amour and Tim Gleason allow their defensemen to play fits in perfectly. One, he's one of the best skating defensemen in the National Hockey League. Two, he has range defensively with his reach to take away plays. Three, he's very physical, something the Carolina Hurricanes needed and addressed by trading for Keandre Miller. So I think he's got a smile on his face. He's excited to be in this group of 6 defensemen. I think we'll see a number of different pairings early in the season for Tim Gleason, but Keandre Miller is going to be unleashed in my mind a little bit to go onto the ice and to grow as a defenseman in the National Hockey League and really flourish inside the system of the Carolina Hurricanes.
I think it'll be so interesting as well when you come from such a big market like New York. That is where you get acclimated. He's a small town boy from Minnesota. He said, I love hiking, fishing, just being in small, quiet places. Coming to Raleigh, he said, was a breath of fresh air because it was taking out of that spotlight, kind of what you talked about, Mitch Marner in the spotlight. It seems like some players might thrive in those big markets and some might thrive in different sized markets where they're still playing on these elite level teams. What do you think that can do from a player's perspective?
People will overlook that fact because there's so many NHL players that say, I want to play in the big market. I want the big paycheck. But don't forget about the pressure that comes with those markets and those paychecks. And I think both Ehlers and Miller will find that here in Raleigh, the fan base that is so welcoming to any player that puts that jersey on, and the way that Rod Brind'Amour treats his team, the respect he has for every single player, and the care that he has for every single player will allow both of these players to fit in perfectly, but really flourish because of that pressure that's been deflated from the situations that they've come from. And I expect some big things out of both of these players.
Well, we're going to be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes, the Metro Division, as well as all the other divisions that make up these conferences and the league on the other side. Who could win? Which division's going to be tight? Stick with us. We'll break it down next.
All customers get a profit boost every NFL game day. FanDuel, play your game.
Shop security cameras this Halloween at Ring.com.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. My Shiro's Day is never done. So let's save a little more now so we can create the retirement we want. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need. Visit asiaretirement.org.
This month on Breaking Par.
It is truly a destination. The Old West meets the new beautiful golf courses. It's kind of a neat mixture.
Kind of have a little bit of everything.
I can't think of any better place to live than Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm a proud Scottsdale resident and plan to be here the rest of my life.
It sometimes feels like you're just lucky to be here.
That is why Scottsdale stands as the best golf destination in the world. This episode has it all. Playing all month long on Breaking Par.
Some folks chase fish. Me, I chase the whole story.
Are you ready?
I'm hitting the road to fish the best waters in America.
Woo!
And meet the people who make these places special.
Good one, Jameson.
Every stop a new connection.
There he is. Fish on.
Every cast a new lesson.
Look at this thing. It's huge.
And yeah, a whole lot of fun along the way.
Yeah, boy.
Fish on!
Let's go! Oh my God!
Catch it all on Road Trip Angler.
Welcome back inside FanDuel Sports Network Live as we gear up for another NHL season with games officially underway. And there are 4 ways you can watch your local team with the FanDuel Sports Network. You can find us on your cable or satellite channel lineup. You can log into your television provider to stream on the FanDuel Sports Network app. You can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network online, or you can watch us on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. It is opening night in St. Louis as the Blues prepare for a divisional matchup with the Minnesota Wild, and following a bitter end to last season, they have a blank slate and they're ready to kick it off on home ice.
Blues fans, welcome to opening night.
Well, the home opener is fun. There's a lot of energy. The atmosphere, the crowd, and the fans are amazing here in St. Louis, and you can kind of feel it throughout the town.
I love this time of year. Training camp kicks off and home opener. You start to get the buzz around town. And
very excited. It's been a tough arena to play in the past, coming here as an away team. So nice to be on this side of it.
It's one of the best things about playing in St. Louis is having the atmosphere, and it's a hard building to come into and play when you have that, and that's exciting. And to get the game going and get the season going and seeing the support from the group and the community is awesome, and then you step into the building and it's loud and it's fun, and I think everyone's there's a big anticipation.
The place on the playoffs last year was crazy. It was such an electric factory. It was so loud in there, and there were so many people buzzing around town. Just be able to skate out to that full sold-out rink was very cool. And
New jerseys to start off the new year, and the fans will be excited. I'm looking forward to it.
There are few things better than opening night in hockey. I've actually been to many in St. Louis, having grown up there. The atmosphere is electric. Shane, I think that's what's so special about it, is that each city, each organization really tailors to their fan base, to the culture, to making it special. More than just a hockey game there, it's an experience. As a player, from your perspective, what are some of the best memories that you've had from opening night over the years?
The energy and atmosphere is always electric. And as a player, you can feel it inside the locker room. You can hear the noise a lot earlier in the evening compared to a regular season game because everyone is so amped up. The music, the videos they're putting out, obviously the announcement of the players taking the ice, the hair on your arm starts standing up. And I think the biggest thing for any player is making sure you control that emotions. You want to utilize that energy and get out there, get a hit in, get some shots, but you don't want to be out of control. And I think that's what you see from a lot of teams. They're almost too overhyped and they start making mistakes early on. As a road team, it's a little bit more simple because you look around the room and you're like, let's just mess up their night, right? You want to be the bad guy coming in. You don't have to do anything special. Let's be calm, cool, and collected. Get an early one. The pressure mounts on the home team, but the overall energy and excitement of opening night, there's only one thing that beats it, and that's the first game of the playoffs inside, especially the Lenovo Center here in Raleigh. But opening night is very, very special, not only for a guy who's played for 15 years, but any rookie that is stepping on the ice for the very first time to make his NHL debut.
I was going to say, you and I are entering our 4th season together at the desk, and I still get those excited little jitters. It's not nerves, it's just the excitement of opening night, and we hear it, whether it's one of the rookies that we talk to in the locker room or even a player entering his 20th season. It doesn't change, and that's what makes it so special, not to mention all the fan interaction. And we're going to kind of dive into all of the different divisions and talk about who could lead what could be taking place. Let's start in the Central Division. Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, Winnipeg Jets. This division out in the West, Shane, I want to get your thoughts because I think it's going to be so tight. Who is your take to win this one this season?
Being in the Metro Division, you and I talk about how strong it is all the time. The Metro Division continues to get a little bit older. I think the Central Division may be the hardest division in the National Hockey League when you talk and look at every single one of these teams. I'm taking the Dallas Stars. I love the Colorado Avalanche. But when I look at the Dallas Stars, I love the defensive core that they have, the amount of offense that they can create from that side of things. I think Jason Robertson has a bounce back year and scores a ton. You have to look at Mikko Rantanen and what he did for them in the playoffs and how far he led them. But number one reason for me, the Dallas Stars, is Jake Ottinger. He's the best goaltender next to Connor Hellebuck in that division. But the Avalanche, I think, falls short because of Jake Ottinger and what he can do between the pipes.
Goaltending has become so key in this day and age, as you mentioned. I can see Dallas being absolutely incredible, also adding a Mikko Rantanen and some of that scoring depth. And I'm also looking at a Colorado Avalanche. When you think about Colorado, it's really interesting because you have a Nathan MacKinnon, you have a Cale Makar defensively, you have these absolutely elite players. And then you bring in, I almost joke about it being Caroline West at some point, because you have a Marty Necas who's been playing on a top line alongside Nathan MacKinnon. There is so much pressure and expectation that can come with that situation. Marty Necas, though, coming off a 2-goal night, when you think about some of the depth they have, also a Landeskog, also now a Brent Burns, some of the older players as well. What's your take on the Colorado Avalanche?
Deep, right? You add a player like Brent Burns, but you mentioned a player that we've seen a lot here in Raleigh, and Marty Necas, how quick he gets out of the gates. A healthy Landeskog coming back, your captain for an entire season. It's going to be very tough to beat the Colorado Avalanche at any point, because there are a lot of people that will argue the fact that Nathan MacKinnon is as good as Connor McDavid and as explosive as Connor McDavid. So the Colorado Avalanche in the Central Division will be very, very tough. I just worry at the goaltender position. Can he win the biggest game that they need to knock out a Winnipeg or a Dallas when it comes down to the final stage.
I think it's important to note that neither you or I chose the Winnipeg Jets. And I do think we have to touch on that just for a quick second before going to the Pacific as well. Why do you think they would maybe take a step back?
Can I say Nikolai Ehlers? I don't know if that's a big enough step back, but Winnipeg is going to be right there knocking on the door again. I just think what they showed in the playoffs last year showed maybe they weren't as strong as everyone thought they did. They go on to be the best team in the National Hockey League. They win after win. But in the playoffs where it matters, they had cracks in their game. They couldn't get over that line. They gave up too many goals. They, in my opinion, should have lost to the St. Louis Blues, a young upstart team that's coming with more speed. I thought St. Louis had them before getting knocked out. So the Jets will be there again. I just don't think they're quite good enough to beat either Dallas or Colorado, in my opinion.
Only time will tell, but as you said, I really do think Central has the most depth. It's going to be the hardest division to win this season, potentially. Let's transition, staying in the West now, heading over to the Pacific. The favorites being the Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton right behind them, the LA Kings. Shane, who's your pick in this division to win it all?
I'm taking the LA Kings. Yes, the LA Kings, and I'm not sure how many people like to wager out there, but if you're looking for a future, taking the LA Kings to win the Pacific would be a great move. Why? Because your longtime captain, Anze Kopitar, comes out during training camp and says, everyone, I just want to let you know, this is my last year. Is that enough motivation for any locker room in the league? That's one point. My second strong point for the LA Kings, it's one player, and everyone in LA used to hate this guy when he was in Anaheim. But when you sign Corey Perry, all this guy does is make Stanley Cup finals all the time, at least in the playoffs. But this guy is born to win, and the LA Kings have added him. Yes, he's getting older, probably a little bit slower, but all this guy does is win, and piggyback that on with your captain saying, this is it, boys. You want to ride with me one more time? Let's go to work. So watch out for the LA Kings in the Pacific Division.
I like that one as well. I was looking at the Vegas Golden Knights. They did catch my eye. Maybe not after last night, because that was a rough go-about between those two teams specifically. But I do think that the Kings, it was that perfect example of they're coming off a loss. They have to open the season back-to-back, and they rallied hard for their captain. He talked before that game, and they went out and they beat Vegas in a home opener, which is a very hard barn to play in. And so I think that showcased a lot. But I think Vegas over time, that's game 1 of 82 for them, right? They have a long way to go. You have Mitch Marner and you have Jack Eichel coming off that fat contract signing as well. There's so many points. When you add a roughly 100-point player per season to your roster, it's going to make a big change. And you think about the depth there, Shane, I'm looking down the roster. Their center depth is strong. And Ivan Barbashev playing alongside those two of Marner and Eichel, I think is kind of incredible. He was the 4th line player on the Blues 2019 Stanley Cup championship winning team, and now he's playing top line minutes. And it goes to show how they've been able to manipulate some of the pieces they have there. They lose Alex Pietrangelo defensively, but you still have so many veterans in that defensive core. What do you think about Vegas this year?
They are deep, and adding Mitch Marner, without a doubt, is going to make them even more powerful up front with the offense. Aiden Hill and net, very, very good. And you talk about the game last night, and I always look, and when I talk to people, they're like, I mean, Vegas is picked to win it, almost to win it all. What happened last night? LA comes in, and that's their second game. Everyone always looks at the back-to-back. Get over that early in the season. These guys are fresh and ready to go. But they've already got all the kinks out in their first game. They come into their second game, they're now flowing, they're rolling, and Vegas was a little bit on their heels. So they went in a shootout. Vegas going to take a point and say, we were close, we're going to get things a little bit better. But I agree with you, not only the scoring power up front, the growth of Barbashev and what he could do. But remember, you have Mark Stone, who all he does is score big goals in big moments. And I agree with you, they have enough depth at defense to make up for losing Pietrangelo for a long term. But overall, I like Vegas. I really like LA being the sneaky team, but we're not going to count out Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, right? This guy's driven. He just took a short-term deal saying, we're going to keep being there. We're going to keep knocking on the door. You guys find me some more players, because I just took less money to get this thing done in Edmonton, and I expect them to be right there with his speed and talent. He can win a game on his own, but he has great support there as well.
I agree with you. I mean, the West is going to be such a tough conference to win this year, but the Pacific also very deep. I like those first three players. Let's transition to the East now, taking a look at the Atlantic Division. Of course, the Florida Panthers, they're chosen to win the Cup. They're chosen to win their division as well. The Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, those three might be a little tight, Shane. What do you like so far in the Atlantic?
It's a little bit of the same old story in the Atlantic. All those three teams are going to be knocking on the door. Can Ottawa or Montreal make a big enough move to get across that line and take one of these teams out? The injuries in Florida are definitely concerning for the organization. When you lose your captain in Barkov, as we talked about earlier in the show, that's a big hole. But that's also a big reason why Bill Zito kept Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad and Brad Marchand, because you have veteran leadership in that room. And the best thing about Florida, we talk about their superstars, but let's not overlook the depth scoring that they had throughout the playoffs from their second, their third, and fourth line players to go out there and grind and score big goals at big moments. So the Florida Panthers, I think, are going to be there. Bobrovsky's an outstanding goaltender. I love the backup goaltender that they went and got in Tarasov from Columbus to help Bobrovsky. But Tampa Bay, I think, with the Barkov injury and the Tkachuk mystery, are really getting excited, because if they can remain healthy, they have enough talent to really push over that line and knock out the Florida Panthers with Vasilevsky. But there's another question mark. Is he completely healthy and going to make it through 82 games? The back has been flaring up. He missed a little bit of training camp. Now he's back in. I don't know. You might want to look at a dark horse in the Ottawa or Montreal area, these young flying teams making that jump to get into the playoffs. Do I think they can win this division? No. I think it'll be one of those three teams we see sitting at the top. But the Florida Panthers, there's definitely concern amongst the injury bug early in the season down in Florida.
Absolutely, and I'm transitioning to Tampa Bay because John Cooper's team, with him behind that bench, they've stood out to me with the additions, some of the changes, different things that they've made in the past couple of seasons to get where they are now. Of course, Kucherov hasn't slowed down. He's 32 years old and he's still producing more than 120 points a season. It's honestly insane. You put him alongside a Point and a Gensel, if that line would stick, seeing some of the production they had last season, you know, I have a soft spot for Jake Gensel and the talent that he is, which I think he can often be underrated. We saw his potential on full display, not only from his time with the Penguins, but then that Four Nations face-off tournament. He's elite, and he really enhances that line, and I think they could be a lethal backbone to the Lightning goal scoring. But as you mentioned, the health in net, that can be a concern. If that would be healthy, though, what do you think of the Lightning? You have a healthy roster. What would that be?
Well, I think Tampa is going to be knocking on the door, and there's no doubt about it. I also think you mentioned Jake Gensel and what he can do in the big moments that he scored in. I always like to start rumors or I'm on a podcast or anything. How often do you think Jake Gensel is talking to his good friend Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh saying, you guys aren't very good. It's nice here in Tampa. What do you think, my friend? Because you know everyone's going to be calling Pittsburgh asking, when's Sid going to want out of this situation? They go and win the first game in New York the other night. Of course they do, with the leadership they have there in Pittsburgh. But it'll be interesting to see, because the other part of that division and what Bill Zito does every year in Florida, he makes a big move. He makes a splash, and he gets pieces into his organization to help them win. Does it Tampa? Does it Toronto make a big move this year to add to their team? Because everyone else misses the boat. Bill Zito goes out, gets it done, wins a cup. Some of these GMs might be thinking, let's spend a little bit to see if we can get one more piece to push us across that line.
I think it's going to be a battle in Florida yet again this season. I'm interested to see if one of those teams does take it. I do think they will, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Let's transition over to the Metro Division now. This one's so interesting, Shane. For so many years, the Metropolitan Division was incredibly hard to win, and multiple teams have taken steps back in the past few seasons. I'm going with the Carolina Hurricanes. I would love to hear what your thoughts are, because I have a feeling we're going to have a similar thought process on this one.
Of course, we're agreeing. That's where we live. That's what we love to see. Rod Brindamore, the respect we have for him inside the Metro Division. But when you look at the Metro, I go back to the two pieces we talked about earlier in Ehlers and Miller, added to this roster that was already dynamic. And then looking the rest of the way across the Metro, not many moves amongst the New Jersey Devils, the Washington Capitals, and New York Rangers. They stayed status quo with adding minor pieces to their lineup, but not with the pieces that Rod Brind'Amour was able to put into his locker room. So I expect the Carolina Hurricanes to come out a very tough test in game one, and the New Jersey Devils, who are now healthy, that they weren't last year when the Carolina Hurricanes knocked them out of the playoffs. And they're going to have some hunger, the New Jersey Devils are. Jack Hughes wants to make a name for himself and continue to drive up the ladder of the National Hockey League. And I think that's the guy they'll be looking at. Nico Hischier, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the show when we talk about different awards around the National Hockey League. They have a lineup that can really challenge. This game tonight is going to be one of those games, almost much-watched TV in your very first night in the Lenovo Center. But I agree with you. The Hurricanes run away with the Metro Division late in the season.
And I just want to add, to be transparent, I'm not choosing them out of bias, out of covering this organization.
You're a homer.
I was going to say, I almost called you that, but I withheld from that. I feel like I've thrown a few too many jabs early on in this show. But I will say with the Carolina Hurricanes, the additions have been good, but it does come down to health as well. And I think it's important to be clear about that. Even in goaltending, with the organization announcing that Pyotr Kochetkov won't be backing up tonight, when you think about the concept of goaltending with the Hurricanes, how much of an impact does that have to play into a regular season for them this year?
It's been the most impactful thing that this team has faced for the past two seasons. The injuries that they've had in the playoffs, Andrei Svechnikov, Jalen Chatfield, those type of players being pulled out of your lineup and having to put in rookies on the defensive end last year against the Florida Panthers, it's a very tough hill to overcome when you're facing those type of injuries. Freddie Anderson, a couple years ago, losing him. This team has faced that the last couple of years, and really, if you ask any coach or organization who have won the Stanley Cup, they will tell you, we've remained healthy. At the key moments in the season and in the playoffs, we've avoided the injury bug, and the Hurricanes haven't. So when you get to the playoffs, you want to push, you want to be finding the back of the net, but you have to stay healthy. Right now, the Carolina Hurricanes, Freddie Anderson saying he's feeling the best that he's felt in years, going between the pipes tonight for Rod Brind'Amour. This team's going to make a run, and I agree with you. The injury bug is something that if you get into it in the playoffs, you're in trouble, and there's not much you can do. You could have the deepest young players in the American Hockey League, but that jump from there into the Stanley Cup playoffs is a massive one and very difficult for young players.
Absolutely. Well, the Carolina Hurricanes, of course, having a room full of veterans, some younger players as well, and that's the storyline for many teams across the league. We're going to talk something old, something new, some of the biggest veteran stars, some of the young stars on the rise. That's next.
Make a move. I dare you.
With Ring, you can protect your home from anywhere.
He's inside the 20. End zone. Touchdown.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, play your game.
I know you're going through a lot. I wonder if you know that we can get help. Let's see how far we can go. Love, your mind.
I'm with George Mason University forward Josh O'Donnell for the FDA's Don't Get Burned Sunscreen Challenge.
Bring it on.
I'm not getting burned today. I'm using a broad-spectrum sunscreen.
The FDA recommends broad-spectrum sunscreens with an SPF of 15 or higher with other sun protection measures to reduce the risk of sunburn and skin cancer.
You smoked me, dude.
That's because I use sunscreen, so I wouldn't get burned by you and the sun.
Broad-spectrum sunscreen. It's a winning play every time.
You know that feeling when you step out onto a trail and you have no idea what's around the next bend? Bye, buddy. That's my favorite part.
Woo! Unbelievable.
I've hiked a lot of trails, met a lot of amazing people, and learned one thing. That's that adventure isn't just about the miles, it's about the moments.
Cut that, please.
Don't cut that.
Turns out, are we there yet is the wrong question. The real question is, how did we get here?
What is there to say? This is breathtaking.
Catch it all on Epic Trails.
Welcome back inside FanDuel Sports Network Live, where the NHL season is officially underway, and there are 4 ways to watch your local team with FanDuel Sports Network. You can find us on your cable or satellite channel lineup. You can log in to your television provider to stream on the FanDuel Sports Network app. You can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network online, or you can watch us on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. Well, the LA Kings have a night off after opening the season with back-to-backs, including a win over Vegas last night. Former NHLer and Kings analyst Jarrett Stoll joined Golic and Golic earlier to talk about the physical and mental grind of an 82-game season.
Yes, long season, travel, including in that. So 41 home, 41 away, and you know, some trips. So on the West Coast, you're going on some long road trips. You're going on, you know, 2.5, not 3 week road trips, but close. But then you also get those homestands where you get you know, a 6 or 7 game homestand, which is always nice. But no, you push your body to the limit for sure, and you can. That's one thing I learned is how far you can really push your body when you think you can, or you think you're hurt. You can always push it a little more.
Is part of preparation the way Happy Gilmore did when he was getting the batting cage and let the ball hit him in the chest? Is that getting ready for hockey season?
maybe not anymore. Maybe not anymore. You should see these machines they have now in our gym back here. It's crazy. I don't know what the budget is back there for that room, but it's pretty high. Everything now is, you know, it's with an iPad and very, very detailed, like down to the rep, what your number is. And it's a lot different from when I started.
You can catch interviews like this and insights on the entire sports landscape with Golic and Golic every weekday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on FanDuel Sports Network. And gosh, ain't that the truth, Shane? You know it best with the grind of a season like this, a veteran yourself. I know you're on the IR at this point.
I'm on the IR before the season even starts, watching these guys work out, not only on the ice, but off the ice. But the game has changed so much. He talked about iPads, the technology that's being used, the analytical part of the trainers being able to measure these guys' workloads on off days, during games, how much they should go and practice. It really helps coaches and trainers really mold the training pattern for all these players. So the most important thing to every one of them is that they're 100% when they come over the boards into a game. And the Carolina Hurricanes and every team around the National Hockey League really puts an emphasis on training on and off the ice, the nutrition, the rest that their players are getting. So they're ready for 82 games because, as we just heard, it's an absolute grind as these players go at it night after night, the physicality, back on the planes, traveling to different states, and getting ready to do it all over again each and every night.
It's incredible for any player to withstand some of that physical aggression and all of the tolls that it takes on your body throughout a season. And then to watch some players do it from 38 to 40 years old. I mean, Brett Burns was talking about having to go into the arena earlier than he ever has, which you and I know he already goes, 5 hours before a game sometimes. You take a look at some of the other grizzled vets across the league, Alexander Ovechkin, Anze Kopitar, and I want to dial in on him as well, of course, the myriad of all of the Penguins players that are still the core there. But you think about the LA Kings, and obviously Kopitar is the first name that comes to mind on that current roster because he has been there for the entire duration of his career. He has announced the farewell tour of this being his final season. That was a massive headline this week. When you think about what that means for this organization, what comes to mind?
It's going to be a driving force for this organization this season in my mind. But that's what makes great leaders, is that they're honest, not only with themselves, but with their teammates. And I think Anze Kopitar didn't want this rumor to be hanging around the locker room or around this team all season long as it went through their games. He wanted to be upfront and honest with his teammates, saying, boys, I've had a great career. This is it. This is my one and final shot to win a championship with each one of you. And I love the message that he gave, not only to the fan base, to the organization, but to that locker room and where he is in his career. And I think it'll be a huge push for the LA Kings as they look to win the Pacific Division. And that's what, when you look at this graphic, every one of these players, what makes them great leaders is that they become a pro. And if you ask former NHL players, how hard is it to play in the NHL? And what do you have to do to stay there? You have to be a pro. You have to figure out how to do it every single day. There isn't a day off. Even if you have the day off from coming to the rink and working out, you're putting the proper nutrition back into your body. You're sleeping the amount of hours you need to. You're taking care of all of those pieces. So when you do come back to work, you're ready to go. And each one of these players knows that. And anyone in the National Hockey League that's getting to 20 years, as we see on this, is an outstanding honor. The respect I have for these players to have these numbers and to put up the points that they do, it shows they are truly pros in the National Hockey League.
Amazon Prime came out with the new season of Face Off Inside the NHL, where it features in each episode a different topic or a different player that they kind of dive into the life behind the scenes of. And I really enjoyed the new season. And one of the episodes features Kopitar and Sidney Crosby, two of the immortal players, as I like to call them, because they'll live on forever in the National Hockey League far after their time playing on the ice is done. And there were so many similarities about their preparation, their mindset. They don't know anything different. And it leads into the core that still remains in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. I want to dive into that because there was such a unique situation where Crosby, Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin got to reunite with Marc-Andre Fleury. We've seen this team hoist the cup together multiple times. What was the most special part of that moment for you?
One, it confused me because I was like, what's happening? I thought he retired. And I see Marc-Andre Fleury on the bench in practice. Most guys just sign a one-day contract and ride off into the sunset. Marc-Andre Fleury, the character that he is, well, says, I'll go through training camp. I want to play in one more game as a Penguin. And they didn't even start him. They played in the second half of the game. At his age, he's probably like, well, now I'm going to tear every muscle in my legs. But I think that group and that core, and the one thing that players talk about becoming a family, those guys will be brothers the rest of their lives and always talking to each other and learning that. But Marc-Andre Fleury brought another piece to the table, and that was his humor and making sure you talk about the mental grind, not only the physical grind of the game, but the mental grind of being able to get to that competitive level on a nightly basis. You have to be able to relax. And Marc-Andre Fleury made sure that the humor was always around the Penguins locker room to relax the guys, to make sure it'd be like, we're very blessed to have this opportunity. Let's have fun while we're doing it. And too often guys who get tight and if they go on a bad streak, they forget about that fun part. And you can look all the way down the line into youth hockey. When the fun part goes away, it's very difficult to find the wins and find your game. So that core group of players were always on the same page. They led by example, but they remained having fun the entire time they do. And that's why it was easier to get these young players to buy in. The Penguins go into New York in game one and win with a young group of players following these great leaders onto the ice because they were prepared. And Sidney Crosby demands you to work as hard as you can. You're going to make mistakes. They're going to tell the young players, it's okay to make mistakes. We're going to be there to back you up. And when young players feel that, they're going to play well. And that's why the Pittsburgh Penguins have had the success that that organization has had with every one of these veteran players.
Let's talk about Sidney Crosby for a second longer here, because although he's entering his 21st season in league here, as you can see, there's 20 seasons for each of these players. It's absolutely remarkable, but he wants to win a Stanley Cup. His compete level doesn't decrease just because he's on a Penguins team that is clearly in a rebuild mode. I mean, they're not really even in the conversation for playoff contention. You know that he is going to push, but it's a really tough situation in Pittsburgh. There was a lot of chatter going around at the trade deadline. There's still a lot of chatter going around when it comes to Sidney Crosby knowing that he's reaching the tail end of his career at some point. If you're Sidney Crosby, you put yourself directly into his shoes. Do you stay in Pittsburgh to be a one organizational, generational player to live on an immortality there, or do you try to go win the Stanley Cup elsewhere?
I think he lives on an immortality there no matter what he decides. And I don't think there's a player organization around the league that doesn't respect Sidney Crosby enough that if he does choose to stay there, the utmost respect. You tip your cap and you wish him well. But I don't think it'll be this season. I think on the tour of Evgeny Malkin being his last year, I assume, in the National Hockey League, I think Sid sticks around. I think he tries to get this organization into a very strong position. But next year, going into the final year of his contract, it's going to be a tough decision. But I think if the Pittsburgh Penguins aren't in an area where he knows they have a true chance to win, I think he will choose to go to a team and try and hoist the Stanley Cup one more time.
Well, let's transition to yet another immortal player who is still on the ice, and Alexander Ovechkin. We saw him in action last night. He's obviously coming off somewhat of a miraculous season where he just did not slow down. He's able to come over that cusp and grasp that record atop Wayne Gretzky, and he still has the chance to chase more of those this season. Does Alexander Ovechkin slow down, or does he continue to really just move on and chase these throughout the season, Shane, in your opinion?
I don't think he slows down. He's that good. He's that talented. He's that gifted of a goal scorer. You cannot teach what Alex Ovechkin has. It's natural. So he's going to continue to shoot. He has one of the hardest shots in the National Hockey League, and it finds the back of the net. I think Alex Ovechkin stays on pace, and I think eventually he passes Wayne Gretzky when you talk about regular season, all those type of goals that he's chasing. He passes and becomes the best goal scorer in every one of those situations. Now, does the Washington Capitals stay pace? That's my question, because every one of those players in the room, we talk about the announcement of Anze Kopitar and how that team will play for him. Last year, that group rallied around Alex Ovechkin in his chase to pass the great one. And I think that was a big reason why they played so well and why they were sitting in the standings where they were. So my question isn't about Alex Ovechkin because he's the greatest of all time. My question is, do the Washington Capitals stay pace with him and continue to push to the top of the Metro Division?
It's going to be interesting. I think after the season they had last year, it would be really hard to keep that pace. I mean, they were unbelievable last season. And so you have potentially a few injuries there. You have some older players, but they also have that younger talent that I think we could really see step up this season. There's young talent across the league as we transition to something old, something new. At some point, the baton has to be passed from a lot of these veteran players to some of the younger talent. We've seen that with the majority of teams we've talked about, the Montreal Canadiens, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Washington Capitals really having some younger talent. When you take a look at some of those who could rise to the top these years, those outstanding rookies, the odds to potentially win a Calder Award, what's the first name that comes to mind for you?
Ivan Demidov for the Montreal Canadiens. And as excited as I get about those veterans, the excitement maybe is even higher with these young players that we see breaking into the National Hockey League because of their skill level. They are doing things, and at the pace that we haven't seen around the National Hockey League, they continue to get better at the ages of 18 and 19 years old. So Demidov in Montreal is highly touted coming in, the skill level, the way he shoots, his playmaking ability. And the one factor where I think this young man goes on to win the Calder Trophy is because of the guy behind the bench. You and I know it best being here in Carolina what Rod Brind'Amour means to this team. I had the pleasure of playing with Marty St. Louis in Tampa, and I know how good of a coach he is. I know the hard work that he demands, not only from himself, but from his players. And I think a young player can thrive under Marty St. Louis, a player that everyone said will never play in the National Hockey League because he's too small. He goes on to win a Stanley Cup in Tampa. He's a tremendous coach. And Demidov, all he has to do is listen and be a sponge and then go out there and utilize his skill level.
There are so many teams across the National Hockey League, and which young talent could be the answer this season. We're going to talk about surprise teams, how certain players might step up, maybe teams we really didn't expect coming up on the other side of this. Stick with us, and we'll be back to break it down further.
If there's anything I know, there's no wrong way. As long as it's your way. It could be simple, a little flashy, but sometimes, right there, how's that? You just feel it.
Does it have the distance? Yes! Oh!
All customers get a profit boost every NFL game day.
Shop security cameras this Halloween at Ring.com.
I know you're going through a lot. wonder if you know that we can get help. Let's see how far we can go. Love, your mind.
I'm always searching for the next incredible place to paddle. Wow. Every destination has a story shaped by water, adventure, and the people who call it home. Out here, every stroke takes me somewhere new, through history, through culture, and through nature's raw beauty. Catch it all on Facing Waves.
This month on Breaking Par.
It is truly a destination. The Old West meets the new beautiful golf courses. It's kind of a neat mixture.
Kind of have a little bit of everything.
I can't think of any better place to live than Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm a proud Scottsdale resident and plan to be here the rest of my life.
It sometimes feels like you're just lucky to be here.
That is why Scottsdale stands as the best golf destination in the world. This episode has it all. Playing all month long on Breaking Par.
Welcome back inside FanDuel Sports Network Live, where hockey returns this week. There are 4 ways you can watch your local team with FanDuel Sports Network. You can find us on your cable or satellite channel lineup. You can log into your television provider to stream on the FanDuel Sports Network app. You can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network online, or you can watch us on Prime Video with an add-on subscription. There are 14 NHL games getting underway tonight, with some of those right here on FanDuel Sports Network, and a handful of Metro teams will be in play, including the Columbus Blue Jackets, who take on the Nashville Predators in their home opener at 8 Eastern. Columbus finished with an impressive push at the end of last season. Now with a fresh start, a lot to look forward to. With more on this and a season preview, we check in with the Columbus broadcast team, Steve Mears and Jody Shelley.
Hannah, thank you very much. Jody, a lot of good young talent on this Blue Jackets team. They're tied for the 6th youngest team in the NHL. Who are you going to have your eye on early on?
Well, right away, I go to Jet Greaves. You know, he came up last year for the Blue Jackets, went 5-0, really proved himself to be an NHL starter, and that just carried through camp. Elvis Merzlikins has been here as a veteran. He's on the bench tonight. Great for Jet. It just shows where this organization is at. The youth now is growing. We saw it over the past few years. Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Marchenko, Fantilli. They're a big part of the core now, and here's Jet. He's inserted himself in that conversation.
These are some homegrown players, and the Blue Jackets very optimistic and excited with the young talent in their lineup. We'll see what they can do tonight here in Nashville. For now, Hannah and Shane, back to you.
Well, thank you, Steve and Jody. We appreciate it so much. It'll be so much fun to watch that game here tonight. Solid matchup. And Shane, when you think about the teams that are on the rise this season, the surprise team for me, is the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it's for so many reasons that we just heard them both talk about. Obviously, there's a lot of young stars that are going to be on full display. Health will be important. Goaltending might be a little in question. But I'm looking at some of the veterans that they added, some of the depth up center, to those forward lines at Charlie Coyle. I mean, he adds that aggressive factor. You have Miles Wood. They added some of those pieces, which maybe you weren't expecting a Charlie Coyle to go to Columbus, but I think it's a really unique dynamic. On top of all they battled last season, it was so emotional, and I think there's so much heart with that team. Who's your surprise team this year?
I'm almost on the same page, but I'm out west with the Anaheim Ducks, because you talk about a youthful team that continues to grow with a high level of skill. I think they've cleaned up their goaltender situation. There isn't a question mark of, should we continue to play John Gibson? They've moved him on to Detroit, which clears the way for their young goaltender. And then you've added another veteran leader in front, and Chris Kreider, bringing him over to play along with Trouba once again from New York. I think the leadership that they have now in that locker room is strong enough to push these young players to another level, Hannah.
It is going to be fun to watch the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Anaheim Ducks, and so many of these teams who are in action across the National Hockey League. I can't believe it's game 1 of 82 for so many teams this season, Shane. I know you're ready to get over to the ice for the Carolina Hurricanes. We hope that you guys had as much fun as we had here tonight. There's going to be more episodes throughout the season dropping here on FanDuel Sports Network Live, where all of different talent and people get to break down all of the biggest topics across the league. So thanks so much for joining us here tonight. We wish you the best, and we'll see you next time.
Missed my window.
You could get in on the action right now.
Now?
Now.